All right, we are live. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today here on CAG Chat. I'm Sherman Hardy, your co-host, and joined by Levon Reedy Thomas, who is our co-host, and Derek Holmesley. We want to wish him a happy birthday. Today's his birthday. He's out doing some self-care with him and his family. So two times for him. And Tanya is at a conference. She's not available, and Donna, she will be joining us a little later tonight. In this episode, we're going to be discussing data centers, and we have James Hunt from Maryland National Capital Parking and Planning, who's going to join us. He's also on the task force. I'm going to go ahead and give us our disclaimer. And this is CAG provides expert analysis and discussions based on facts and research. However, we are not attorneys and nothing shared should be considered legal advice. For legal matters, please consult a qualified attorney. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Levon. She's going to get it kicked off with open mic.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sherman. Happy birthday, Derek. And yeah, we are not attorneys, but Lord knows I should have gone to law school with all the stuff that's happening. I needed to get that accelerated course with Tanya because it's on and popping here in the DMV. So tonight's open mic is a little bit of a smorgasbord just to kind of lay out all of the hot button issues that are taking place in our area. And I think they're all intertwined in the sense that folks seem to have lost their minds. We have no structure in government, no respect for the Constitution and the Charter, no respect for fiscal management. Folks just doing what they want to do. They hiring people that they want to hire, regardless of qualifications, relationship. It's just, I can do what I want to do. So let me just bring you all in. If you follow us on Facebook, thank you very much. We appreciate the support. And because of all of the things that are happening, I want to say this so that I don't forget. We have a survey that's going around on the internets about how you feel about Prince George's County, our leadership. It's a very simple survey. You can find it on our Facebook page. If you would go there and fill it out, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you to those who've already answered the questions. But what I'm finding in reading within the posts of other people is that people didn't seem to understand what was happening during the Senate race last year. I'm not trying to beat the dead horse or beat up on y'all's girl, Angela Also Brooks. But when the new county executive has a huge press conference to announce that there are 30,000 outstanding complaints, and she was standing in front of a then cleared out lot that they said had 200 tires built on it. And the neighbors were saying they've been asking for these tires to be removed and for this lot to be cleaned up. My question is, well, who did you all call? And where was the response? What was the response? Was there no response? Was it put off? Would you call 311? Did you call your council member? Now, I don't want to call any council members out because I'm not sure the address of Hyattsville. So it could be a couple of different council members. But what I would say is no excuse. You have 2 at-large council members. Well, maybe not the last year, but before then you had 2 at-large council members and you have a district council member. Now, depending on who that was, they might have been too busy out campaigning for you to reach to show them these 200 tires. And I just want to shout out our council member, Sherman, because I have an area near my house on Woodyard Road where people were dumping tires and other stuff constantly. And every time I reached out to council member Sidney Harrison, we got it cleaned up. The off-ramp at Route 4, we got it cleaned up. So I don't understand where the friction was in that situation. I won't project what I think it might have been, but I'm just going to say this. Every resident deserves to be treated with concern and a response. It doesn't matter what their political leaning is. It doesn't matter what their zip code is, and it doesn't matter who their council member is.
Because you see, Belinda had a similar complaint. It wasn't tires,
Mm-hmm.
but it was trash that was left there, and the work order had been, it had been out for a while, and no one had completed it. So, she put out a cry on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and
And it was
luckily it was
cleaned up at
done.
1 a.m.
Was.
that next morning.
Yeah,
But
but the fact that she had to do that, and it sounded like she was losing hope, and saying she's just tired of what's going on in this county. Um, that's a
right.
sentiment, that a lot of people feel that she's been in this fight for a while. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I told her. I mean, when people like a Belinda Queen uh get discouraged, we are in trouble. And so I just want to say on a high note, shout out to County Executive Brave Boy for her uh, campaign to clean up the county. Why did the name of it just escape me? It's a something
elevate.
blitz.
Oh,
Elevate, but it's something
no,
else. It's something blitz. And it's a
we'll just say
60
elevate
day effort. Yeah, Elevate is, I think, her theme for Prince
for
George's
Prince George.
County.
Yeah.
But the initiative is called something else, and it just escaped me. But anyway, it's 60 days and 7 days a week. There'll be crews out cleaning up. I did see people on some kind of off the beaten path roads, and I'm like, okay, I like this. But here's the other question. How much is this costing us? And where's the money coming from? Because it can't be sustained. It just cannot. And so then that leads me to our wonderful council members who
Oh,
continually,
I think it's is it the countywide litter and beautification blitz project
okay,
elevates?
that's okay. That's it then. I knew a blitz was in it. I thought it was a little choppier name
Hmm.
than that, but
A little fancier.
I appreciate the effort, but I want to say to people, what the heck did you think the previous county executive was doing if she wasn't at least able to do things like this, that you thought it was worth voting for her to go to the Senate? I just need to put that out there, y'all, because election is next year. And while Aisha is hitting the ground running, it's a 18-month term. And right now, nobody said they're running against her. And I don't call anybody a winner until the last vote is counted. And right now, nobody has declared, and they got until early next year to put in their name. So I would encourage people to pay attention. What is of substance and what is just for show? And so I'm going to roll over to her friends, her little brother in the council, the chair, Ed Burrows, and his partner, Crystal Oriata, District 8 and 7, respectively. And they're on this big effort to combine forces in all that they're doing, it seems, in a lot of what they're doing. And now, last night, they decided they're going to get into the churches, and they're having a prayer breakfast over at Maple Springs. And then they're going to do a concert with Kiki Sheard and JJ Hairston down at Ebenezer.
But the
Now,
doors of the church are not open for
right.
everybody.
Right. Jamal Bryant is the featured pastor or preacher for the prayer breakfast. And unless he doing it for Alpha bro, I mean, was he a Kappa? Unless he doing it for somebody out of the goodness of his heart, he has a fee. And so the question becomes, oh yeah, and they said that it was open to District 7 and 8 residents, and registration is required. Now, that didn't say only. So my question would be, can I not register because I'm in District 9? Is the computer going to kick me out if I don't say I live in District 9? And then how's this stuff getting paid for? How is this a policy related activity that has to do with the three responsibilities of the council: land use, health board, and fiscal oversight? How I'm trying to understand how this, and hey, I'm a woman of God, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I love Jesus. But I remember when we went into office with the Baker administration, and yeah, I'm gonna talk about my experiences, y'all, because this is my journey. Okay. Whatever y'all did to get to where you are, if you don't want to share it, don't share it. Not my business. I am here to inform and to inspire. And so my journey, if it does anything, it's going to inform and it's going to inspire. So what we need to do is stay focused on that and not, other stuff. And so I found a letter that was addressed to the, Sherman's putting up the information. Oh yeah, Ty Tribbett, he cost a pretty penny. And so I found a letter that was addressed to the former county executive, Jack Johnson, from the Office of Law, telling him that he could no longer host prayer breakfasts. And they had tickets attached to that. And so we never did that. The Baker administration didn't do it. And so I don't know what the rules are for hosting free events that are being paid for by county dollars. Maybe they got some sponsors. It doesn't say that. But I feel like we are just wading in dangerous waters when we start hosting these big events that have big tickets attached to them and nobody knows how it's getting paid for. The other issue that I wanted to bring to the forefront that's hot and bubbling over on Facebook is the continued conversation about former council member Mel Franklin, who served time last year for campaign fraud, finance fraud, being hired as the chief of staff of council member Calvin Hawkins. And they did a news story with Maryland Matters, where this time Mel Franklin spoke. And okay, I see our guest is popping on, so I'm gonna wind this down. And in the story, Mr. Hawkins made the comment that he appreciated the people. I'm gonna paraphrase it because I don't have it in front of me. He appreciated the people that support him and understood what he was doing, and that he cares about returning citizens. But other people are complaining. And whenever a resident speaks their mind, it is not a complaint. It should be treated with respect. It should be considered, and it should be addressed. So let's not forget that if you're the champion for the people, you got to be champion for all the people, whether they agree with you or don't agree with you. And when people are being paid with tax dollars, the people, the taxpayers, have a right to speak up. And so I'm going to end it right there because I like to respect the lines between our personal, political, professional conversations and the role of our invited guests. Go ahead, Sherman.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And today we're going to move over to the conversation with data centers with tonight. And thank you so much, Mr. Hunt, for joining us. For everybody who doesn't know, James Hunt is the Deputy Planning Director for Park and Planning. And are we going to be joined by Anthony Jones? Okay, he's actually just signed in as well. I'll bring him on in a second.
Mr. Hunt.
But Mr. Hunt, it's good to see you again. Can you kindly introduce yourself and tell our audience who you are and what you do?
Sure. If you don't mind, if I would like to, can I start off by introducing co-chair Anthony Jones?
Yes, absolutely. Give me 1 second while I bring them on.
Okay, he's in right now. Oh, should be.
Oh, I have to bring him on my side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, go ahead and introduce your counterpart.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is James Hunt. I'm the Deputy Planning Director with the Prince George's Planning Department of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. And I wanted to briefly, before I get into my portion, I wanted to introduce Co-Chair Anthony Jones. He is the co-chair of the Prince George's County Qualified Data Center Task Force. Him along with Chair Burrows, who of the council, are pretty much leading the effort when it comes to the Qualified Data Center Task Force. We are meeting on a monthly basis, minus the month of August. But I want to definitely introduce Co-Chair Jones here to go ahead and introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Anthony Jones, and I'm the co-chair of the Qualified Data Centers Task Force. I'm also the county attorney for Prince George's County. And so I'm one of the executive branch's representatives on the Qualified Data Center Task Force. The Data Center Task Force, it was created by the county council. So it has members from the legislative branch, including Chairman Ed Burrows, Council Member Walla Blagay, are also members of the committee, and myself representing Aisha Braveboy in the executive branch of government. But the task force has 20 different members representing different organizations, and they all have different areas of expertise. So we have members from PEPCO, we have members representing the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission for water issues. We have environmental activists. We have we have labor representatives, just a diverse group of people sharing their expertise and perspective about data centers.
Awesome, thank you so much. And James?
All right, and again, good evening. I'm James Hunt again, Deputy Planning Director with the Prince George's Planning Department. If you want, I can go into briefly my role within the Planning Department and then lead into the Qualified Data Center Task Force. Within the Planning Department, my role is simply as the Deputy Planning Director. I'm oversee a staff of about 150 individuals. Then that team of individuals, we're charged with reviewing a lot of the development applications, or all the development applications coming through. A lot of times, pretty much, if you see those big signs on the side of the road, then my team is the ones actually reviewing those. We intake those applications, we review them in conformance with what the law requires, and provide what I call a technical recommendation, not based upon a social aspect, but more so on a technical portion of it. What happens is those applications then come to the planning board, as well as proceed to the district council or the county council for final review and approval or disapproval at that point in time. We really are looking at all the various master plans that are out there for the county, any policies or guidelines that are out there as well. We also, like I said, we have a staff of about 150 folks on that side of the house that we really are well versed in all the different areas of land use planning. We've got folks who are highly esteemed folks from all over who are well recognized from all over the country, who are a part of my team. And so I'm really happy to be, leading those efforts as a part of this team here. But yeah, we are the ones who are charged with reviewing these applications as they come through on a technical aspect. We are many people may not be aware, but we are reviewing applications in conformance with 2 different zoning ordinances. And I want to be very clear. Within most jurisdictions around the country, and I'm going to probably go ahead and say about 99% of the jurisdictions around the country, they only are looking at 1 zoning ordinance and 1 set of subdivision regulations. In Prince George's County, our team are reviewing under 2. The reason why that is because there was an ability to allow for a lot of the developments to actually proceed under, for them to determine which application they want to go through. In addition to that, they were allowed that, they allowed that flexibility and allowed for a certain period of time as well. So we're going to be doing that for quite some time. But the team is fantastic. They are well educated, highly well versed in every aspect of land use planning as it comes through. But I wanted to kind of go ahead and say that and be able to open up for any questions that you all may have related to that too. But I can.
It sounds like that's something that you definitely want to discuss. So we'll remember to circle back to that.
Okay.
For those of for everybody on
What
the chat
is a
who
data
doesn't know
center?
what a data center is, I just want to put
A data
video
center
real quick.
houses rows of computers and equipment for storing, processing, and transmitting data. They typically have few windows and extra security, including cameras and sometimes biometric screening. The computers need a lot of electricity to operate and to keep the equipment from overheating. That also requires more electricity and huge amounts of water for elaborate air conditioning. The International Energy Agency says one large data center uses the same amount of electricity as it takes to power 400,000 electric cars. Tech companies are increasingly using their data centers to train and operate artificial intelligence systems. Training an AI model to learn from huge amounts of data requires additional computing power. Conventional data center services run on processors known as CPUs. AI relies on graphics processing units, or GPUs. The IEA estimates that asking OpenAI's ChatGPT to compose an answer requires nearly 10 times as much electricity as a traditional Google search. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google have all announced plans to tap into nuclear energy to help power their US data centers. They've also helped finance new wind and solar farms and other alternative energy sources. In the near term, however, most data centers are still heavily reliant on the surrounding electricity grid, which is largely powered by burning fossil fuels, the primary cause of global warming. This is making it harder for some countries and tech companies to keep their promises to address climate change.
All right, so
it's one thing to criticize your former employer. It's taboo to do that, but to criticize an employer that also owns.
Yeah, so it definitely went into a little more about data centers and what I was intending to, but these are the facilities that house pretty much all the information that that we're doing right now. This live video, this phone that we're using, everything it's traveling through a data center, and all of our public services as well. So that cloud is actually inland in the building. But James, I want to toss it over to you because we definitely, the last you spoke, we were talking about zoning and permits and stuff like that. And so there are some permitted zones like CGOs and NACs and tax neighborhood activity centers and town activity centers that are near residential communities and shopping centers. Has the planning board revisited the reasoning for including these areas since the 2018 ordinance?
Not at this time. So what's going on right now is the reason why we're going through this data center task force, because the county council has received and have been discussing with a lot of their constituents the concerns that are related to those data centers and where they're located, the guidelines relevant to design, impacts to the community, as well as impacts from an economic standpoint. And so what they wanted to do is they want to take this approach much differently than most other jurisdictions do. We don't want to have a situation where we're putting the cart in front of the horse, so to speak. So what they want to do is take an approach of having a task force. We realize that under the zoning ordinance, from like you said, it's a permitted use in certain zones already. However, what the task force and what the council really wants to do right now is take a step back and say, hey, okay, let's really look at this from a data standpoint and also look at it from potential impacts. And number one, to see what our community says, what they want. And so that's where we are right now. We're sitting down with the residents. We've had 3 community meetings in the month of July, one in the northern part of the county, one in the central part of the county, and as you're well aware of, the one in the southern part of the county as well. Each one of those, we did a lot of social media outreach on those to kind of get people to come out. In addition to that, we're placing the video for each one of those meetings online to get that impact and that feedback from the community. We're not just looking at it just from a land use standpoint. We're looking at it from every aspect of data centers, what they are, what the impacts are, what are best practices from other jurisdictions, not only in the DMV area, but also around the country. What does that look like even from a design standpoint? How do you mitigate some of these designs? One of the things I recall from one of the meetings, or actually a couple of the meetings, where some of the residents were saying that sometimes if these uses go into these specific locations, how can you repurpose these facilities in the event that in the future that does not become the industry, right? And so that is definitely a point of contention in some aspects. And so we want to take that into consideration as it relates to the study that's coming out. So any aspect that's out there, that's what we're doing right now. We do not want to take the approach of, this is the end all be all, because the county council has made it very clear They want to have an educated look at what the impacts are going to be. They want to see what's the best approach to this, if at all. What does that look like? So they want to hear from the citizens. And so the task force, just like Co-Chair Jones was talking about, we're not just having task force members that are just county council members. We're not just having folks from, the county executive's office. These are folks who are actually industry representatives as well. We've got folks from the unions on there. We've got folks from the University of Maryland, from educators. We've got folks from the private developer side. We've got folks from the state government side on there. We've got folks from the utilities on this task force as well. So we're looking at it from every aspect, from an economic development standpoint, you name it. We've got folks on this task force who are well versed in those areas. In addition to that, at each one of these meetings, we're having representatives from these different groups out there as well. So we've talked about things such as energy consumption. We've talked about environmental impacts. We're talking about economic development impacts as well. We're also looking at what other jurisdictions have done. So what we've done is we've invited the folks from, let's say, Frederick. They're coming in at I think they've already been in actually, but we're also going to talk to the folks in, I believe it was Loudoun County, to get their impacts on there as well. So they're going to be as far as their standpoint and their best practices, because they've indicated that they may not have looked at this the right way, right? And of course, as you all are very well aware, in the recent news, that there have been some concerns relevant to that in Prince William County, for example. So what does that look like? So it's, I will say this, I'm very proud to be a Prince Georgian right now, because we're not taking that same approach. We're looking at it, taking a step back, seeing what our citizens want. We're looking at it from a standpoint of economic development, from land use, from best practices all around the country, impacts from, because you all know, you've seen in the news, right? There have been concerns with people's electricity bills going up high. So yes, I will say this, I heard this out of the county executive's mouth. She said she does not want this to happen. She is not in favor of electricity bills going up. So this is a major concern for her on that aspect, but she wants to see, just like everyone else on this task force, what does this look like, for us? So what's taking place right now, we have our next meeting on, I think it's September the 10th, I believe. It's the second Wednesday of the month, whatever date that is. And everyone is involved. If you want to come to this meeting, you're more than welcome to. It's open to the public at our Largo headquarters at 1616 McCormick Drive.
I'm sorry, you said it was the second, which day?
It's the second Wednesday of the month at 11 o'clock. The 10th. Yeah, the 10th. Okay, so it's going to be the second Wednesday of the month from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. Everyone's invited to come, whoever wants to. But we'll be speaking on specific topics each time. In October, we'll have another topic. The topic in October will be on land use, site design as well. But the one in September is primarily focused on getting a quick wrap up on all the community meetings, because we had a consultant come on board to pull all that information together, as everyone's aware. And they're going to, and we've made it very clear, and they are in full agreement with us. We have to be transparent on this, because we can't go to a community meeting and not show what the community members said. So what we did at the community meetings, we gave each member, each person that visited, they had a sticky pad, and you can write on a note and place that on the board. What we've done is they're taking pictures of those individual notes, and also documenting what those are. So we have those, and making it everything as transparent as possible. So everything's going to go right into the record. So no matter what, if you've written a comment down on there, they've taken a picture of it, documented that comment. In addition to that, finding a way within the study itself to see if we can address those potential comments. Understanding
James,
that
you didn't tell me those comments was going to be recorded and for posterity.
It didn't have folks' names on. I'll be very clear. But you didn't write your name on there, right? Yeah, you didn't write your name on. Yeah, so that's the thing. Because we realize that there's a concern from the community. They want to be able to trust folks in this process, and we need everyone to trust us on this. So therefore, we have to be transparent. It's the only way to go. It's the only way to go, to be transparent. We are trying to do the right thing by everybody in this process, because we really understand the importance of this. So that said, I've made it very clear as the deputy planning director that this is going to be a transparent process when it comes to getting the information from the community. And as you all know,
this is part of it. You're here.
Exactly.
So we definitely appreciate that. Now, I do have a question for Anthony. Speaking of Loudoun County, they initially allowed by right data centers, and then they switched to a special exception process after the backlash. How is Prince George's County using those lessons to avoid similar pitfalls?
Yeah, thank you. So Prince George's County, we definitely want to use, if we decide to pursue data centers, we want to use best practices from other jurisdictions. And jurisdictions like Loudoun County and Fairfax County and Prince William County, they've been having data centers for over 25 years. So they have a long track record and a lot of experience at dealing with data centers. So we are trying to use the best practices if we decide to pursue data centers. And just to give you some context, the Prince George's County Qualified Data Centers Task Force does not have a predetermined outcome, but the goal is for us to be a think tank and to really just learn from the subject matter experts about whether data centers would be a good value proposition for Prince George's County. So we are definitely looking to learn from other jurisdictions that have experience with data centers, and we hope to use best practices if we decide to pursue data centers for Prince George's County.
And if I may, because there was a question in the chat, and this is right where we are right now, they asked, what are the biggest benefits to the county if we move forward with these centers?
Well, one, they could be a good economic development opportunities. There are a lot of jobs associated with data centers, especially during the construction phase. In Loudoun County, we toured a data center there. There were 1,500 workers who were involved in the construction of a hyperscale data center campus in Loudoun County. And then after the data center is constructed, they have, I think they average 75 workers that work in the building for maintenance and upkeeping the servers. So it's an economic development opportunity. And the reality is that would those be people from the county who are employed in those jobs? Yes, they were mostly Loudoun County residents, but we also have. Oh, I mean, here in our county, because if it's built in Prince George's County, we will definitely have a preference for workers who are based in the county, working and maintaining the data centers.
And if I might add, there was one of the things that I learned from that tour is that they actually had a pipeline when it comes to education. So coordinating with, let's say, Prince George's Community College, for example, coordinating with all of our colleges and universities in Prince George's County to create that pipeline, and also to coordinate with them to have that program. So whenever that, if we were to go down that road, let's say, then they will be able to work and set up a program with those colleges and universities to create that pipeline. Not only that, but we can also have that conversation when it comes to our Prince George's County public schools. What does that look like for the school system? And coordinating that with them as well, kind of pulling them into that. So it's a different approach than what most other jurisdictions have done. But that was, I would say, a very big benefit that could take place, in addition to many, many, many other things too. But I'm not saying, again, just like Co-Chair Jones, there's no way we can go out and say right now that is indeed where the county wants to go. We want to get all the full aspects when it comes to data centers right now. But those, just to the question that came into the chat, those are some of the benefits that came out of this as well. So there are many different things that could come from this. And also when it comes to, just like you said, when it comes to the land use and zoning, this task force, that's the intent there, to really go in and talk about what does that look like? Is it a special exception process, right? From a land use and design standpoint, do you have these structures that look like office buildings? Because I said this in many of the community meetings, that there were structures that looked like high-rise buildings. They were in New York, they were Chicago, as I understand. Prince George's County is not New York or Chicago. However, there's an opportunity to create these buildings that are green friendly, So that's what really, that's an idea that's out there that we could utilize this task force process to come out and provide a recommendation back to the county council at this point in time.
So I have a couple of questions. Thank you both. One would be, I hear what you're saying about the pipeline, But I've also been around long enough to remember when the hospitality programs were started and they were channeling through the school system and the community college. And I really don't even know what progress that has made. I know early on when the Gaylord opened that some residents were getting jobs, students were getting jobs. But we have to put a pin in that, Sherman, and maybe get somebody on who can talk to us about what's the update on the hospitality education pipeline and what has been the impact for our residents. The second question I had is about the location of these things. You talked about the zoning, and there are 2 areas of zoning. Most people don't even have a clue about zoning. And so if you can, without causing
technical and layman's term,
well, without causing pandemonium of saying, well, we're thinking about putting it would possibly go. How can you talk to us about ideal types of areas? Maybe that's the
some
best way
requisites they're looking for.
Right, that these things would go into.
Yeah.
And then my third question or point is,
Lavon.
I got it. Revenue. You mentioned economic development or economic opportunity, Mr. Jones. What kind of money, dollar figures are we talking about? So my 2 questions are not hard. Go ahead.
Sure. So I'll take the first and the third question, and I'll leave the zoning question to Deputy Director Hunt. So one best practice that we've learned from other jurisdictions is that they sign what's called a community benefits agreement with the data center developers. And these agreements are contracts whereby the data center developer agrees to provide certain benefits associated with the data center. So for example, Deputy Director Hunt mentioned the Loudoun County agreement. So Loudoun County has an agreement with their data centers as part of their community benefits agreement, to where the data center developer created a program at Northern Virginia Community College. This program is completely funded by data center developers, where they train students at Northern Virginia Community College to work in data centers. And so the data centers are paying, it's a program where they train Northern Virginia Community College to work in data centers. And so the data centers are paying and especially for Prince George's County, where 20% of our workforce are federal employees and contractors. And with them getting laid off by the Trump administration, there's going to be a large revenue shortfall for Prince George's County, given all these federal employees. There's going to be a large revenue given all these federal employees who will know county. So we're definitely looking at the revenue potential for data centers. And we've learned that one large hyperscale data center, like the ones in Loudoun County, can generate up to $20 million in tax revenue per year for a local jurisdiction like Prince George's County.
When it comes to the question on the zoning aspect of it, just in looking at the different types of data centers, because a lot of times, we are fixed on those large mega data centers, right? However, not understanding that Prince George's County already has data centers. When I say this, it's from a standpoint, there may be a data center that may be about 15,000 square feet. And it's adjacent or in an existing building that's next to a major use, let's say an office use that's out there. There's some that are in College Park that you would never even imagine are even there. Because they're in a building that they're supporting a specific use that's there. So the use is already out there, and there are different sizes when it comes to that. Regarding the locations, and from a zoning land use professional standpoint, we've seen a lot of around the country, such as the ones in Prince William and Loudoun counties. A lot of these are more in their, let's say, their rural areas or undeveloped areas of the county. That's where they're a lot of times are going, or in the areas where they want to do, or they have industrial zones, right? So here in Prince George's County, they're allowed in industrial zones, I believe. Yes, they are allowed in the industrial employment as well as industrial heavy zones that are already. However, around the country, a lot of times what they tend to do, a lot of local jurisdictions will do, is place what we call an overlay zone. So what an overlay zone is almost like saying they're taking the actual county itself and putting a circle on a certain area of the county, and you're right there in that area alone, you can actually say these specific uses can go here, and that's it. They have to meet specific parameters such as design and development standards that are out there. I will say this, one of the great things about our zoning ordinance, there are development standards in there related to data centers. And what the county council has the option to do as well, in addition to, let's say, do an overlay zone, they can add on to those development standards. So, for example, what comes out of this task force, if they say that they have to have, green walls or different or setbacks from of 500 feet, they have to do that. They put that in there. They will have to do that as it relates to the land use aspect of the overlay. The overlay will require that. And what that does, again, is just saying in that specific area itself, that's where it would go. What I've seen also, as you all may be aware, a lot of people don't want them next to residential zones. We understand that, right? And so if that indeed is the case, that definitely is a consideration. I saw a lot of that coming out of those community meetings. They don't want it next to residential zones. So that is a definite a point of contact or comment that will go back to the task force as well. But from a standpoint of land use and zoning, what we've seen, like I said, are primarily the overlay zones, identifying where the best places to put those overlay zones, if that indeed is the route that we go.
And I believe I understand that there are 3 to 4 data center applications already in the pipeline. With some of the old zoning rules, how might that 20-year grandfathering window impact the future planning of data centers?
Well, if as it relates to this task force, it would actually come in and revise the policy for the county, right? And basically say, you're not going to be the ones that have already gone through the pipeline, that have already been approved and everything, they're already there. So they've got their approval at this point in time. For those that are going to go through the pipeline that have not gone through right now, they're going to have to comply with those new regulations whenever they do come out. Once they are codified at that point, that they have to comply no matter what. So the ones that already gotten their approval will have to comply with those prior approvals at that point in time. They have what we call in the zoning ordinance does allow what they call a validity period. So what does that mean? So you only have a certain amount of time. Once you get that approval from, let's say, the planning board or the county council, you have a certain amount of time to start construction and show significant work, right? So if you don't do that, it's null and void. You have to start back all over with the process again. So a lot of times what we're finding right now is a lot of the data centers that if you're looking at a lot of the large ones that may want to come in, that as you all are aware, there's a power issue that's going on. So when I say that, they have to ensure with Pepco, BGE, and SMETCO, all the power companies, that there's going to be enough power to go to this facility. If there's not, they're not going to be able to build their facility there. So that's one of the things they have to get from when I say the county side and park and planning side, those entitlement approvals. They, once they get through, they get the permitting side as well, of course, right? But they also, last but not least, they've got to make sure they have the power and the water there. So that has to be confirmed. And they're a lot of them working through that right now for a lot of those major ones. And I want to say major ones, there's not major ones coming in. We are aware of that one. I think there's a Landover Mall site everyone's aware of, right? But they're looking at from a standpoint of, ensuring that from a power, they have enough power to get to that location.
Yeah, you are really doing my job for me, and I so appreciate that, because we're actually going to go into some of the environmental factors, and there was a few questions about that, but also about the center, what you just mentioned. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and find that comment really quick while we're on the subject of that particular location. Then we'll talk about some of the environmental factors. Or is it? I can't find it, but we'll get to it when I.
What are you looking for in the
chat? It was a question about the Landover Center, but can you describe the issue pertaining to gray water?
So yeah, sure. I can kind of go into briefly. When it comes to gray water, a lot of let's say water in general, right? A lot of the data centers, as you all know, they're going to take a lot of water to come in and cool those systems that they have, all that equipment in there. As you were talking about earlier, you know, there's many different uses. You can have, the banks are using data centers, right? Banks are using them. We're talking about, you know, us using it right now, the phones, when we're text messaging, everything that we have, or, you know, it goes through a data center at some point in time. So they have a significant amount of equipment. It overheats. So they're going to utilize that water to cool those systems down. A lot of times in many jurisdictions, they're finding that the water that they're using, they're just taking this water and cooling it down, then it goes back into the system, and it's taking a lot of water, it's taking water from the regular system coming out. So what they're recommending that they do is utilize gray water. So you keep water on site and you just recirculate that water. That's all you have to do. So it doesn't take that much of an impact to the community, but you're keeping that water on site and not impacting everyone else. That's the big thing when it comes to the gray water.
So I see a question about the electricity. Can you talk a little bit more about the electricity? Who pays for that? And it says, how can the county reap some benefits from these centers?
Well, we kind of answered how the county benefits, but
yeah,
definitely,
he did. But I guess the way I would tie it together is our electric bills are skyrocketing. So will the implementation of these centers, would it offset our residential bills in any way? Like, what is the benefit to residents outside of the revenue that the county gets? Like, if I'm a resident, why do I care about it? I'm not going to work there. So are there any benefits? Let's just expand the question, whether it's utility augmentation or whatever. What are some of the green pluses for a everyday Joe?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's one of the issues that the task force is considering. But as I mentioned before, we can learn a lot from what other jurisdictions have required in terms of electricity. So a best practice is, if you have a data center come to your jurisdiction, to require the data center itself to pay for all the infrastructure costs associated with bringing electricity to the data center site. So it would be the data center itself, not the taxpayer, who is running wire and lines to connect their facility to the grid. It wouldn't be the taxpayers, but the data center itself would bear those costs. Also, other jurisdictions that have data centers, they have specialized rates for data centers, whereby the data centers pay a proportionate share for the cost of electricity that they're using. Like they have their own separate data center rate that essentially covers all of the extra costs for bringing that data for the electricity that goes to that data center site. But we're still considering, I mean, you're exactly right. Electricity is one of those things where it could potentially lead to increased rates. So we're studying ways to mitigate any impact on ratepayers if we decide to pursue bringing data centers to the county.
And Co-Chair Jones, if I might add in there to your point, the other thing added to that was the fiber optics, because that was a concern as well. But one of the things that came up that we heard from them was that there's an opportunity there where they could pay for those upgrades. So those communities that may not have fiber optic network, they would actually go ahead and pay for that installation there to make sure that's there. So that would be, again, another benefit to the community when it comes to those. Now, I'm not saying
I have a question.
Will
they actually pay for it, or was that cost be shared?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's a policy decision that would have to be made. That's not, we'll have to have that conversation. That's what this task force is all about, is getting all that detail, the information together. And so the decision makers can determine what that looks like.
But the accessibility is what the residents have wanted, and that's expensive in some areas of the county. So that would offset and allow for the accessibility that people have been wanting for 10, 20 years. Okay, that's good. Right. Thank you all.
And again, it's a best practice to require the data center to bear all the costs for running the wire to the site to connect it. So we visited, as Deputy Director Hunt said, we visited a large hyperscale data center a couple of weeks ago in Loudoun County. And the data center itself, they spent $150 million just running the fiber optic cables and the electricity lines to connect their data center to the grid, but they bore 100% of the cost of connecting that site to the grid, including all of the wires, the cables. They paid for all of it. The taxpayers did not pay for any of the money to connect it to the grid.
Well, as long as I don't have to pay for it on the back end, I'm perfectly fine with that. And on environmental factors as well, I want to ask, what are the environmental justice factors that are now part of siting decisions? Like, what are you looking at? Because, you know, there are groups in the area that deeply care about trees and the water and, you know, the soil, especially our farmers, you know, in certain areas. So what are the factors, you know, that you have been discussing on the task force or you know, in your head yourself?
Well, I will say, I don't want, Coach Chair Jones, if you want to start, I'll let you. I can let you start, and I can go into it either way. But I will. But I'll tell you what. From our standpoint, what we've seen is that's where we're kind of going into that overlay area, taking a look at that, because that can help you determine where you want to have these located. When it comes to the environmental justice standpoint, you know, looking at it from, if you don't want it near, let's say, those agricultural areas or the, you know, the rural areas of the county, you can say that.
Brandywine gonna get you.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's what this is about, right? We want to say, we want to hear from the folks in Brandywine. We want to hear from the folks all over the county. Say, hey, you know, what are the impacts? I don't want it in my area, or I'm okay with this. Or let's say I'm okay with it at this size, at this scale, right? It may if you come into that area, it can't be any larger than, let's say, 20,000 square feet. What does that look like? So as opposed to this 350 or 500,000 square foot campus, what does it look like? So it's not just one size fits all. If you don't want it at all in those areas, what does that look like? We want to hear from you on that. And just like you were talking about earlier, when it comes to the water impacts, that gray water, utilizing that gray water on site. One of the points that came out was utilizing existing industrial buildings here in the county that may not be filled right now, that may be vacant. So you can utilize those. So that's one that came out as well. And those are in industrial zones already. So, you know, there are different aspects that are out there that could be utilized when it comes to a land use planning standpoint. We're happy to look into when it comes to that. But they're, you know, as a part of this study, that's what they're looking at right now.
Yeah, I have a comment. I have one suggestion. And I would say that some of these strip plazas that we have would be great locations for them, even though some of them do abut neighborhoods, but it would definitely address the excess of shopping centers that we have. As far as the task force goes, do you have any young adult representation on the task force? Either science students, college students? You mentioned that the colleges are part of the task force, but are those employees of the colleges, or are they students who are studying this type of industry?
Well, the folks that were from the college are the professionals, for the professors that are there, because we're looking at those folks from the industry itself. However, we did not close off anyone from participating. When I say that, from attending these task force meetings. And it's not, that's the reason why we're saying it's not just about the task force. It's about the community meetings, right? What do we get and hear back from the community? Also, we have an email address. We're taking that information as well. So it's inclusive of everyone when it comes to that. But I'll let.
So are there residents on this task force?
Yes.
We have representatives from community associations in Prince George's County that are on the task force. We have some homeowner association representatives are on the task force as well.
Okay.
And to Deputy Director Hunt's point, our committee mostly consists of subject matter experts. So it's people that are experts in water usage and electricity usage and planning and urban development. So, you know, most of our task force members are people that would not be in the young adult category, but at our public community meetings, we've had a lot of college students that came and gave public comments about data centers.
Oh, that's good to know, because I just want to stress that a lot of times we have conversations that are going to affect those who are young adults, 20-year-olds now, when they are 35 trying to buy their first home. And so if we have regular everyday citizens on this task force, then I would just go make a suggestion that an effort be made to get maybe some graduate students or senior students, or, you know, so that our future residents can be at the table now, instead of looking at it down the road going, I didn't know anything about it. I don't know if that's a subset, but I just want to put that on the table as a recommendation. And I would encourage our listeners, our Facebook followers, to, you know, bring your science students up to speed on this and give them the opportunity to go to these hearings so that they can start understanding what planning is about and its different components. That's it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because I have been trying. That has been one of my biggest things since I've been in this position. I want to make sure that education about the land use and planning process is out there. And I would be remiss if I did not plug for the Neighborhood Planning Academy that we do have within the Prince George's Planning Department. We are accepting applications right now. And as of, we need your applications in by close of business on Friday to participate in this 7-week program, which everyone will be able to learn about the land use and development process here in Prince George's County. It is critical that everyone learn and know, because they want to know what the impacts are when it comes to development next to them. And you got to know how to be engaged and get in the process. You cannot be concerned and not get engaged. You have to get engaged in every aspect of it. I strongly recommend each and every one of you to go to our website, which is pgplanning.org, and go to the link on the Neighborhood Planning Academy and register, put your application in to go for it. And we're going to continue to have these different sessions throughout the year. And we're actually adding on as well at this point in time.
It's good stuff.
Yeah,
Sherman,
definitely. Thank you so much. Well, there was a question that I guess should ask. Someone asked about removing of light poles. It said, will this remove any existing telephone poles? I'm sorry.
I'm not exactly aware of what we're doing right now. Again, this is just a task force. I want to make it very clear. We're collecting information from the community on what their thoughts are when it comes to the data centers. So I want to hear back from the community at this point in time. And the task force is actually looking at and talking with other subject matter experts when it comes to this, and providing a study to the county council. There was a resolution from the county council from back in, I believe, April of this year, setting up this task force. And so that's what we're looking at right now. We haven't had that conversation about light poles or anything else related to that at this point. We're talking about, energy impacts when it comes, from the data center use, also any other impacts related to that and what the community wants to see.
Right. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that website up there so people can see it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that they'll go ahead and visit it.
I found the question. I'm sorry, Sherman. I found the question about the land oversight. You want me to read it?
Sure.
Okay. The question is, it said, what can the task force say about the Bright Seat Data Center, Old Landover Mall? I read that CE also Brooks provided a tax break to the Lerner family. So is there a plan to put a data center at the Landover Mall site, or is that just a internet rumor?
Oh, so I can speak to that one. About 2 years ago, there was an application that came in for the Landover Mall site. It was a preliminary plan of subdivision, and I can go into detail on that, what that looks like. However, there was a development application that came in for that site for a data center. At this point in time, they did receive an approval from the planning board, because that process did go through the public engagement process, public hearing process, and they had public notice and everything. We did have a public hearing on it. The application was approved for a data center to go at that site. After that took place, they were at that point in time allowed to go to permitting, and that's pretty much where they are right now. However, from last conversations with the development team, they have not received approval to have the power, enough power for that site at this point in time. So it's almost like they're in limbo, so to speak, right now. However, that's what happened at the time. Relevant to any type of tax breaks, things like that, that's not my area of expertise. That's not my purview. Our aspect, just like I was talking about in the very beginning, is my team as well as myself. I review every application relevant to the technical requirements and the regulations of Prince George's County. We take that and provide a professional and technical recommendation back to the planning board as well as to the council on there. And pretty much for that site, that's what happened at this point. And that's all I can say on that one.
Is there a case number? Wait a minute, Sherman. I want to ask, is there a case number for that project that the public can access to track any progress or updates?
We had a preliminary plan of subdivision went through. I don't have the case number in front of me. However, it's been approved at this point in time. That's the status of it, and it won't go any further than being approved for that when it comes to the public hearing process. It's done with the public hearing process when it comes to the land use requirements. They're going to the permitting phase at this point in time. I don't have the details of any application from the permitting side. What I would recommend is maybe if you want to contact the Department of Permitting, Inspections and Enforcement, or DPI, and see if you just provide them the address, they may be able to look that information up for you and get you that permit number per se.
Okay. Yeah.
If there is one.
Sometimes tracking projects is difficult. So I just wanted to ask that follow-up. Go ahead, Sherman.
I will say real quick, if you go to our pgatlas.com website and go to the Landover Mall site, there's what I call a layer on there. If you click on the layer for momentum, you can click on there to see if a permit has been issued for that site. What we have for right now under the new momentum land use program, or I should say permitting program that they have. What we've done is we've tried our best to kind of integrate, because to your point, Ms. Reedy Thomas, there was a disconnect between the land use side and the permitting side. So what we've done is utilize our PG Atlas program, our GIS program, our mapping program, to put both the land use information for a property as well as permitting information on a property on that same location. So you just go to a map, click on the site, it pulls up both of them. So
great.
Thank
you.
And there was a question in the chat. It says the county council exempted data centers from personal property taxes with CB 55/2020, as long as they hired 5 to 15 people. How can the county truly get out of a budget deficit if it's giving data centers massive tax breaks on personal property taxes? That's for either one of you.
I will take that one. That, the revenue potential is something that the task force is considering. And we learned from touring the Loudoun County facility that a lot of the revenue that they generate is from the personal property taxes associated with the equipment inside the data centers. So all of your computer servers, they tax that. They tax the computers themselves. They tax a lot of things. Prince George's County's current law, as you mentioned, doesn't allow for the taxation of the personal property inside the data center. So we are definitely considering changing that. That would be something that we consider to change to increase the revenue potential for data centers if we decide to pursue them in Prince George's County. Because a lot of the revenue, it does come from taxing personal property, which we're limited in doing that in Prince George's County under current law.
Okay, great, thank you. And I have a twofer because it's under the same umbrella. One of the questions was, are they studying the physical effects of the nonstop hum to the humans around? And there was also a question about ensuring environmental impacts are fully investigated, or who does it, and if there's any Clean Water Act compliances.
So could you repeat that first question? I think it
Sure. The
froze
first
on me.
question was about the hum, and the second question was about investigating environmental impacts, making sure that we fully investigate them, and were there any Clean Water Act compliances?
Okay, from for the hum itself, we do have, when we first started looking into data centers, that was a major concern because a lot of community members indicated that they were loud, right? So that's the reason why we took on the tour, taking that tour of a data center, because we wanted to see what that sounded like. Because there are mitigating factors that can take place when it comes to regulatory compliance. So what we did, like I said, we did that tour over in Loudoun County. Actually, I've done two myself. And so each time I went to the data center, and you could stand right there at the front door and hear it was a slight hum. It's what you heard. However, I'm going to be quite honest. I heard the highway noise over that hum. It was the highway noise next to it. I'm going to be just transparent as possible.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing. I'm not saying that what was said was incorrect, because
to diminish it.
Right. It's not. That's not the case, because the data centers I went to are newer. So that data center that could have been an older one, and the technology being much different. So I can't come back and say that indeed is the case. However, what is an option that's out there when it comes out of this study that takes place is recommending a decibel level for each of these data centers and the use itself. And also providing an enforcement aspect, who's going to enforce it. Also providing, let's say if you wanted to have the community be able to call a number to say, hey, this is too loud, something like that could be any of these factors as well when it comes to that too.
So everybody knows about what's happening, or maybe they don't know. I'm just going to say the hot news headlines are about Elon Musk having this supercomputer center in Memphis. So just to kind of bring this into an understanding for the everyday person who is watching the news or scrolling the internet, are we talking about anything in comparison to that computer spot center in Memphis? Or are we talking about things that are kind of, a quarter of the size? So is there any way to paint that picture?
When it comes
I wish
to,
I would have brought some graphics, James. I'm sorry, because that way you could have shown exactly what she's talking about. Because there's no specific model right now. We're entertaining them all, but yeah.
Yeah, and I see your point. I apologize. Unfortunately, I don't have my dual screens in front of me right now, so it's hard to do that and bring it, because it would be very confusing. So I sincerely apologize. And what I can, if I can, I may see if I can find the presentation that we did have, because the one that our team did with meetings will ensure that's posted on the website. And as you know, that presentation did clearly indicate the different types of data centers that are out there. So it goes from that small one all the way up to those hyper facilities that are out there, which are what you're talking about. They're the campus-sized ones. However, from this standpoint, we're looking at everything. We want to hear what the community is saying about everything about data centers, every size that's out there, the campuses that people have, or I should say that are regulated through other jurisdictions. What does that look like? We're looking at everything right now when it comes to those. So just to be as transparent as possible, we are wanting to get the feedback from the community on everything. And if they don't, from them not liking it at all to yes, I love it, whatever they say, we want to hear about it, so we know how to proceed on this end.
And again, just to further Deputy Director Hunt's point, our job is to give a recommendation to the county council, and the county council can come up with what limits that they think are needed for the size and the scope of data centers. But we're just giving general recommendations, and the council will fill in the specifics about the size and scope of data centers that will be permitted to operate in Prince George's County.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I am definitely going to wrap up. I'm going to allow the both of you to kind of close out. And I have a question that I wanted to ask, something that pertains to the meeting that we had, that you all did on all the meetings, because you explained beyond the tax revenue what tangible community benefits that we would see. And in your closing, if you can share some of those, or what options or opportunities out there, because they said the potential was unlimited based upon what the community needs or wants were. But also in that, I want you all to close out. And if you had a takeaway, one takeaway or two, whatever, for residents watching right about now who are questioning data centers in Prince George's County, or what would that be?
When it comes to the tangible benefits that we were talking of some things such as if a certain community was indeed wanting, let's say they're in need of a park, if they were in need of some type of, let's say, a recreational facility, any other recreational facility that's out there. When it comes to giving back to schools, what does that look like? Other infrastructure improvements, like we were talking about earlier with the fiber optics. Impacts to, let's say, just from a site design standpoint, if roads, for example, need to be looked at. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about anything relevant to what the county government is charged with providing to the citizens. These are things that could be potentially on the table, right? Relevant to, like I said, police, giving back to the county on police or fire, if it's something relevant to the roadways out there, public transportation that's out there, you name it. It's almost like at this point in time, having a blank slate. So I was trying to say at the community meetings, having a blank slate and saying, hey, if you have this use, what is it that you want to see that would you, in your opinion, in the community's opinion, being an opportunity to mitigate that? What would be a mitigation aspect or option out there that the community would want to see that would better them and their life, right? So in looking at, let's say, for example, with what Ms. Reedy Thomas was talking about when it comes to Prince George's Community College, giving back to them, creating a program, that pipeline for Prince George's Community College, creating additional STEM programs for Prince George's County schools, having those options out there, improve. We have these P3 programs here in Prince George's County when it comes to the schools that are being created. Because as you see, over the past few years, the county executive's office has done a fantastic job in building brand new, working with the school system and creating all these new schools or rebuilding the schools. So do you have that pipeline or that funding going in to support those public-private partnerships and many other aspects out there? Those are just some of the few things, talking about other infrastructure improvements when it comes to, talking about PEPCO and SMETCO and BGE and WSSC and others out there. Do you, certain areas of the county that may want to have, like I said, the sidewalks. They may want to have additional, they may be on sewer, water, they need water and sewer services. They may be on well and septic, and they want that. This is an option that would be out there as well. So all these are some tangible aspects that we're talking about.
And I would just say in closing that the Prince George's County Council, Council Chair Ed Burrows, Council Member Wallow Blagay, as well as County Executive Aisha Brayboy have made it clear that data centers have to be a good value proposition for Prince George's County. And that means that the benefits associated with data centers have to outweigh the cost. And so our recommendations will determine, all the work that we're doing will help decide whether they are a good value proposition for the county to pursue. If they're not a good value proposition, the recommendation won't be to pursue them. But if they will provide benefits that directly benefit the residents and taxpayers in Prince George's County, it's definitely an economic development option that the county will consider. But the benefits it has to make sense in terms of providing direct benefits to the people of Prince George's County.
All right, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your time and coming on and explaining all this stuff to the public and answering our questions. Like you say, in the spirit of transparency, I hope that there's opportunities for more of these discussions to take place. Lavon, did you have anything to say before we let them go?
No, just thank you so much. We appreciate you all coming out, and our door is always open, or our cameras are always open.
All right, y'all. Take care. Again, thank you for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, that was a great discussion, and I definitely learned a little more than what information I initially got when we had the meeting down south. Yeah, absolutely, because they definitely went into look. At first, we were talking about the cost of data centers and sharing costs, or really how the public pays for that in itself, and the energy costs increase. But I feel a little better, but I'm not. As long as I see that I'm writing, because again, the people always say you're gonna pay on the front end, or you're gonna pay on the back end, but you're gonna pay. So I want to make sure that whatever cost this is, it makes sense. I really don't have anything else though.
I have a couple of things. One is we gotta promote that Atlas software, that Atlas.
Oh yeah,
map.
PG Atlas.
Yeah, we got to do that because, I have these projects right here on Woodyard Road that I need to be watching. And there's some other areas that I've been seeing some activity, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So we definitely are going to post something about that. The other thing I wanted to say is just to kind of explain a little bit about why I am pushing these conversations to include young adults and teenagers, is because we have these community service hours that are required for government, but the government services are not making an effort. To me, there is no organized effort to make sure that the children, that the students are learning about public service, right? These are the kind of conversations. Right? Why am I got feedback? These are the kind of conversations and meetings and opportunities that they can get community service hours for, by just going to a meeting about this, by asking questions. Our children, as I used to tell people, the work I'm doing now is not for me today, it's for 20 years from now. And that's what people need to understand. Some of these things are not going to happen tomorrow. And yet you're all upset about it when you may not even be here alive above ground. This is for your children and your grandchildren's future. So start bringing your children to these meetings. Start finding ways for them to be engaged. They can do papers for school on some of the things that are happening right here in Prince George's County. And I'm always about youth. I'm always about education. And I'm going to always find a way to tie that into our conversations. The last thing I wanted to say or ask is for you, Sherman, and I apologize that I forgot to text you about it, but you had the opportunity to visit one of our former guests' sites, Peace on the Patuxent.
Oh yeah.
And I meant for you to talk about it the last time. So can you just enlighten? Because you haven't even talked to me about it.
And I wanted with me.
I couldn't that day. I couldn't, but I'm definitely gonna follow up with her. So tell us a little bit about what your visit was.
So the place was nothing short of amazing, especially the backyard. Like when I say she laid it out. I wish I would have had my pictures ready because I did take a lot. But I can't transfer them.
Well, first let's say that Peace on the Patuxent.
Peace on Potomac.
I'm sorry, is Patuxent or Potomac?
Peace on Patuxent.
Okay, it's a
because. I got old timers sometimes too. I think it is
Patuxent, but it is a retreat center for women who are going through cancer treatment or have gone through cancer treatment, who just need some kind of respite, and they do everything from one day. You can just
go pick you up in a limo. They drive you to the facility. And they provide, I believe it's breakfast and lunch for you. Then also have opportunity for a night out of town. But yes, the house is nestled in the community. You wouldn't happen to notice it; just looks like in a regular spot. You go in and it's laid out. It's nice. They have furniture and everything for like a regular house per se. But there are one, two, three. I think she said 3 or 4 bedrooms there, and you get to stay there. And you interact with some of the other women, or you can have your alone time and quiet time, or whatever you choose. But they have different sections outside, for you to be able to meditate or to do yoga, or to just sit there and listen to waterfalls. It's a very beautiful place, and they're trying to do more and expand. So hopefully, outside of government donations, they do accept donations from citizens. So consider reaching out to Peace on Patuxent and contributing for an event, because there are a lot of women, or people, but this is geared towards women who are experiencing or going through or dealing with, and they need that moment to just get away from it all. Because everybody around them is constantly reminding them or their situation, and just have an opportunity to have that moment to just be yourself and be in a space of comfort without judgment is great.
Yeah, and it's not just for women of any particular cancer diagnosis. And so since I am now 1 year out as a survivor of breast cancer, praise Jesus, thank you. I am offering myself to come out and speak with organizations about my journey, what it was like. Every diagnosis is different. Every care plan is different, and everyone's reaction to the care is different. And so that would be the message that I would want to share with people is it is such an individual experience. But the one thing that people do need is support. It doesn't matter. You need support, whether it's a ride, whether it's a meal, if you can eat, whether it's a giant food cards, gift card, so that when you can eat, you can go get yourself something that's ready made. Any support is always good. And that's just not for people who have cancer or breast cancer. That's for anyone facing some type of chronic illness. But my journey has been breast cancer. And so I am committed to that. And so you guys know how to find me, Loudoun Reedy Thomas on Facebook. Just send me a DM and let me know where you want me to come and speak. And I'm willing to come out and do that. So that's it, because that's what I'm about. I'm about service.
All right. Usually you're a little longer winded. I was definitely sitting over here trying to get a video downloaded real quick to show.
Oh, well, I can keep talking if you want me to.
No,
I can find something else.
No, never mind. You sit in silence for a moment while I download one of these videos. And for those who are watching, I truly appreciate you all for hanging in with us. If you missed that conversation about data centers, then go ahead and watch it from the beginning, because there was a lot of information that you possibly could have missed. Again, those on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, and share our content. Here we go.
Take our survey.
Never mind. It didn't come through, but never mind. Oh yeah, and also our survey is circulating around. Please take it. We want to get the sentiment of how people feel in the county. There are some people who feel like hope is fading. And there are some people who say that we're doing good. So we want to know what the county is doing well and what we're not doing well. And we will make sure that we get this out inside of the CAG Chat group on Facebook. But I'm ready to close it out. I've said all that I can say.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Deuce.